Hi, I'm Dr. Molly Marty, and welcome back to Resiliency Matters. We are speaking with Dr. Allison Jackson today, an expert in ACEs, and we would love to hear what you would like to share about your personal story of resilience.
Absolutely. So, I spent a lot of time actually in residential centers growing up. Between the time I was 13 and 19 years old, I was probably in 10 different residential centers, locked units for kids with mental health diagnoses. I acted out a lot, broke windows, tore down doors, hit staff. Probably not who people see me as right now, sitting on this show with you, right? And I think what's really powerful about that is that you don't always, when you're looking at someone, know their story. And so I always say we're not powerful enough to know what someone can become, but we're powerful enough to actually offer support and listen. And that's what was given to me, is that when I was locked in that institution multiple times, many people who are professionals injected me with Thorazine, held me down in 4-point restraints. I had a nurse say to me, if you ever want out of here, act your age, not your shoe size, you'll come through me. For anyone listening, that's not a trauma-informed approach to a kid who's acting out. But there was a man named Howard who had no letters behind his name, was a mental health tech, and he did the most important thing that we can do for children or adults who were dealing with adversity. He made a relationship with me. He cared about me. And then he figured out what my motivation was, which was to tear stuff up. And he went with my motivation. And so he actually listened to my story. And then he said, okay, if what she likes to do is break things, this is what we're going to do. He's like, Allison, I'm going to take you to the gym. And if you can give me a workout for an hour, then I will let you tear everything up in this place for free, which at 16, I was like, yes. Actually, I said worse than that, but I won't say it on the show. So I was like, yeah. And so what happened, though, is I crawled back to the unit and couldn't break anything. And that was the moment that I broke down and told him my story. And he said to me, you know what, Allison, I think you're going to do something special in your life. I don't think this is your story. I got locked up over and over again to hang out with Howard, which was not his plan. But a lot of times people will find whoever it is they need to get to that resilience, right? And then one day he said, meet me in the lobby. I'll teach you this on the outside. And that really was the beginning of my resilience story. Hard part is I went to college. I went through a rape. I actually broke down, was locked in an adult psychiatric institution. And he found me in that same institution. He left the adolescent ring and he came, and I'll never forget, life-changing moment. He said, Allison, please don't let go of hope, because I'm going to hold hope for you until you're strong enough to grab it. I've got you. Last time I was locked in a facility, last time I attempted suicide, first job I ever had was a mental health tech on that pod. I worked on the same pod I was locked on to help kids like me. And I think that's, for me, the biggest part of this work, is it's not about having letters behind your name or the right letters behind your name. We all have a role in resilience, and we all have the ability to connect with another human being and offer that to them.
Beautiful. And I thank you for sharing that with our audience, and how you so broadly have shared it with your TEDx talk and really mobilized a lot of positive change around that.
It's important.
It is.
Yeah.
And you're brave for
Thank
doing
you.
that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let's shift gears.
Sure.
Another great researcher, Nadine Burke-Harris, but she has a kind of lighter analogy that you like to shake things up a little. So we're going to use the word diarrhea.
Yes, we are. That's a spoiler alert, right? So what I love is one of the things she says is any public health issue, and I just want to reiterate that ACEs is a public health issue, right? Not just a behavioral health issue. And so what she says is, if I'm a doctor and I got 10 kids drinking out of a well and 9 of them come into me with diarrhea, I can write prescriptions for diarrhea all day long, but my other option is to pay attention to that well, to stop the diarrhea epidemic. And I love it, even though lots of Secretary of Health are like, can you pick a different term than diarrhea, Allison? And I'm like, diarrhea, diarrhea, diarrhea. And they're like, I'm uncomfortable. And I'm like, that's the point. So when people are in crisis, you can't ignore it. You can't pretend it's not happening. And it makes you uncomfortable. We can't ignore folks in that place. But if we don't start figuring out, in terms of policy, relationships, organizations, caregiving, support, how to hold space for the well, we are going to continue to live in a diarrhea epidemic. So my favorite thing to say to people is, the next time you're in a meeting, ask the question, are we just going to talk about diarrhea today, or are we going to do well work? And I promise someone will listen to you.
So let's start with the diarrhea talk.
Yes.
All right. What does that work look like in your world?
So to me, I also think of it as criminal justice work, the opioid epidemic, working in our jails, foster care systems, folks that have had trauma after trauma after trauma, and maybe there was an opportunity much earlier in that story for some system, some community organization, some person to reach out, and we missed it because we weren't doing well work. We waited until it was a crisis, and it's costing us financially, and it's costing us in terms of human lives.
I just saw a Hesburgh documentary on, and he had made the point: you either pay attention to leadership, or you're managing a crisis, because this is what it's going to be. I thought it was really profound.
Very powerful, same thing. And it's not that you're not going to feel that tug, but I think as we get into other types of what I've learned in my work, I've done tons of diarrhea work in my life, have lived in that a lot of my life. It's interesting to me now that 80% of my work is well work, and it's been intentional because I want to stop the epidemic. I want to reach people. And it doesn't mean that other work's not important. It's critical. It's not fair that some people didn't get those things earlier, but we can't, like you just said, we cannot lose sight. We have to protect the well work.